Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show tonight. Welcome. It is day 2 of the 2025 NFL draft. It has concluded, and the Seahawks did a few things. They did a few things today. Some people like what they did, some people didn't like what they did. There's definitely a lot of variance here. There's a wide range of takes, and we gotta parse through this one. We gotta give our own perspective. We got to put our own takes out there, try to figure this out, try to reach an understanding, or try to fall in love, try to figure this out one way or the other. That's what we're doing tonight. I am Brendan. That is Brandon. How you doing tonight, Brandon?
Good overall. Good overall. A lot of differentiation in opinion, but overall feeling okay.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we've definitely got plenty to go through in this day 2 coverage. So I think we're just going to kind of go ahead and swing right in, going in chronological order, and we'll talk about each pick as we get to it. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay. So the first thing that happened, it actually happened very early in the day, and this was kind of cool because I thought initially it was going to be like maybe almost an hour before our first pick. Instead, we ended up picking in the first 10 minutes because we traded up with the Tennessee Titans to pick number 35. And in order to do that, we gave up 52, which is the DK Metcalf pick. And we also gave up 82, which is our natural third round pick. So before we get into the pick that we made at 35, how do you feel about that trade up?
I'm okay with it. I think that when you looked at the players that were available to you in the depths of the third round, right around where that third round pick was at, that you'd be picking, I think that the names were not illustrious into the depths of the third round at that point. And so the player that you get in Nick Emmanwori is far superior to the player that would have been available to me with us picking there at the end of the third round with that pick that we used to move up. So I would sign off of it from that purpose of it and understand it from that purpose of it. And it was the move I was most happiest with on the day, or the pick I was by far the most happiest with on the day.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the charts yet, but my feeling is that the charts would tell us that was a pretty reasonable trade on both sides. It was about where you would expect a trade like that to land.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that the Hawks are going to tell us that they had a first round grade on Emmanwori, and I can understand why they would have.
Yeah, I did too. So
I completely understand them making that move, and that makes a lot of sense. If you had a player at the third round that was going to be somewhat of equivalent in value or ability or upside, that would be something. But in Emmanwori, you're getting a guy that's as talented as a safety as you would find in any draft at any time. And so also he has good tape. It's not like it's just not star tape, but it's good tape. So he's got the good tape in addition to that upside that he does sort of tease a little bit too.
Right. So as you said, the Seahawks then turned around and used their 35th overall pick on Nick Emmanwori of the South Carolina Gamecocks. And it was a very fun debate we had this offseason. Starks versus Emmanwori. It was kind of like tape versus traits, right? It was this perfect distillation of the player with the amazing play on the field, but he doesn't have the greatest athletic attributes, versus the player who is a generational athlete, like a once-in-a-lifetime athlete, but he doesn't get the job done quite as well on the football field. What would you rather have? Now, Starks ended up winning out. Starks went higher in the draft, but Emmanwori goes here. So let's just start with Nick Emmanwori. How do you feel about taking him at 35?
Yeah, the value is right. I didn't want to take him in the first round. I was long saying that I've got a second round grade on him. I've got a high second round grade, but in picking in the draft in day 1 and 2, I think one of the most important things has to be about taking guys in the right spot where the value is correct. And I know that there's going to be some difference of opinion about where the value is on certain guys, but I would say that with him, you went and you got the guy at the right value spot of this draft. And so that makes me enjoy the pick that much more. There's some questions to him about whether he can reach that really high upside. There's some questions to him about some coachability stuff. But as far as the upside and legitimately how just an uber talented player from the safety position, that is what you're getting here. And so that makes me sign off on the pick, feel happy about the pick, because I want to go for ceiling, especially after going for more of the floor with Zabel yesterday. Come back into the second round and look more for the ceiling and the players you're grabbing.
Right. And Emmanwori is all about ceiling. Emmanwori could be an all-time destructive force on the back end here. He is one of the biggest safeties in NFL history, actually. 6'3", 220 pounds. He's not quite Cam Chancellor, but he's trying. He's much closer to Cam Chancellor than anybody else. Long arms, 4.38 40, 1.49 10-yard split, 43-inch vert, 11-foot 6-inch broad. These are historic numbers. These are some of the all-time greatest numbers we've ever seen from a safety. He's got the versatility. That's another thing, right? We need safeties that can be ubiquitous. We need guys who can play in the box and guys who can play back. This guy can do both. So that's very important here. He's got a lot of range. He uses his length very well to contest passes. I think his ball skills are pretty good. And he's athletic enough to hang in man coverage. So there's a lot to like about this pick. And I think getting him in the early second round is... If we had gotten him at 18, I would have been okay, but I definitely would have been like, you couldn't have done better. This is definitely doing better.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah, I think it's much better in this spot. And it's a very important point for me that you didn't get him at 18 because it wouldn't have been the right value. And that's, you want to take the guy at the right value, not fall in love with guys you start reaching. That's where bad drafts are born.
Yeah, this felt like something the Eagles would do. They were looking at the draft. They're like, oh, wait, that guy's fallen this far. Oh, we got to go get this guy. And then they swing up and get him. That felt like a Ravens move or an Eagles move.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's smart, very smart. Easy to laud, that one.
Mm-hmm. So the concerns with Emmanwori, and we've kind of had to talk about the concerns with Emmanwori a lot because after that combine, I think a lot of people just fell head over heels for him. And we kind of had to temper people just a little bit. And we talked about some of the concerns. So how would you characterize the concerns about Emmanwori going forward?
Well, I think it's just that he's still a little bit away from reaching that upper end that he teases. So he's got a long way to go to get there. The thing with him becomes not character concerns, but coachability. And is he a guy that will buy into what you're asking him to do? Or does he want to kind of run at his own speed and play at his own rhythm and whatnot? That's really what we hear coming out of it from him as far as that goes. So Mike McDonald would be the right coach, maybe you would think, to get him to buy in on the process there. And there's no doubting the upside that the kid does bring.
Right. So I think that there's an argument to be made that he is a little bit of there's a little bit of lackadaisicalness. He takes plays off. I think there is some inconsistency here with him bringing it every snap. You hope that he kind of grows into that as he grows. Remember, this guy's 21 years old. Mm-hmm. You hope that as time goes by, he starts to take this a little more seriously. And I think that he depends on his athleticism to bail him out of his suboptimal angles that he takes. A little bit slow to trigger downhill. I don't think he's a great play diagnoser yet. These are things that you hope come with time, and they can. I want to be clear about that.
Yeah, I would expect him to develop with time, and he doesn't have to even start next year. You can bring him out for little 3 safety looks and specific packages and get him worked in. So you got the time with it to work that.
Okay. All right. So I actually gave the pick an A, and part of me was pulled to A-. But I think getting this player at the top of the second round with knowing what he could be, I think that's worthy of an A. So I did end up having the rarefied A grade on that one. How about you?
Yeah, I'd put an A grade on that.
Okay, so then unfortunately things, for me anyway, not for everybody, but for me, took a little bit of a turn. So we sat there for a little bit, watched some picks go by. Our pick came up at 50. So this was our natural second round pick. There was some really interesting stuff still on the board. A lot of interesting things could happen. And I mean, something interesting did happen. The Seahawks selected Elijah Arroyo, Miami tight end. How do you take this one?
Probably a similar place that you find yourself with. I'm not super high on Elijah Arroyo as much as some others were out there. I think that he's a really good route runner and he's got pretty good hands, but I think that there was a lot of manufactured touches out of the Miami offense to get him what production he got. He only really has the 1 year of production to operate off of. He's missing enough. He's somewhat of a willing blocker, but he's not really any good with it. And he's missing a lot of strength to make it work in that role of things. I don't think he gives you any real yak ability after the catch as a pass catcher from the tight end. So you're getting a guy that's a route runner, pass catcher. I also get heavily worried that there's a little bit of an LJ Collier effect on Elijah Rojo. He goes to the Senior Bowl, and then that allows the performance on the back of that to sort of artificially then push him up. So I'm just a guy that I watched a couple times going back on the tape because there were so many 12s that were sort of checking me saying, oh, well, I really like this guy. You got to go back and go and look at him. No, you're missing it. Go back and check it out. And I went back and looked at it and went back and checked it out. And I never came away at any time feeling any more improved off of the initial film study that I did on him.
Yeah. I think I'm right there with you on pretty much that entire evaluation. He's got good hands. He doesn't drop a lot of passes. He's good against zone defense. He's good at finding the hole in zone and sitting down. I think he's a willing blocker. I think he's an okay blocker. I would not call him a good blocker, but I think that compared to some other tight ends out there, he's better at it than Jawan Johnson or somebody like that. And I think he gives effort, but there are so many problems here. He has one season of production because he couldn't stay healthy. He has one season of production. He had almost 600 yards last year. Other than that, his career has basically been nothing. Mm-hmm. Not a very good athlete. Like, he did not do a lot at the combine. If he did, it would have probably hurt him. I don't think this guy's calling card his athleticism. I think he's more just one of those kind of solid, productive guys. And that's fine if you're drafting in like the 4th or 5th round. If you want to get somebody like a Will Dissly, so somebody like a Will Dissly that you get in the 4th or 5th round, that's different. It's okay that Will Dissly isn't super athletic, but if I'm getting a tight end in the 2nd round, I need a little more gas here, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. I agree. I see the same thing. I think he's not somewhat quick, not fast. I just don't see a lot there with this guy that others are seeing. It's like people are seeing a different player than the one that I'm watching on the tape.
Yeah. Not a great route runner, and he's not strong enough to block, like you said, and nothing as a yak player. So I kind of feel like he might end up being just like a chain mover in the NFL, and you can get chain moving tight ends in day 3, no problem. They're all over the place. And if you had to take a tight end here, I think I would have preferred Harold Fannin Jr. personally. So
yeah, I would have too as well. Okay. I'm definitely pretty low on this pick, and it's hard to get sold for me on it. Watched a lot of his tape. This isn't a guy you just watch one game of and you come to a determination. Multiple games of watching him and just not walking away in my impression, just feeling impressed. Again, go back and just watch the highlight film on him. How many touches on just his highlight film, which is supposed to put him at his best look? This is him at his best. How many of those touches are artificial touches? How many of those touches are he starts out blocking and then just leaks out and the defense blew the coverage on him and he's wide open 50 yards down the field for the touchdown? How many of those are on his tape? And it's like, well, then when you go and watch the actual game film and you're seeing him be so quiet and you don't have those manufactured touches and you're not seeing him just purely win, yeah, it gets you a bit low on the guy, kind of, quite frankly.
Yeah, it really kind of confuses me. I know that Kubiak likes tight ends a lot. I understand that there's probably a pull from him to like, hey, I want to load up on tight ends here, but this being the one just kind of confuses me. This was one of the guys that I just didn't get. And I know that there are some people that really liked him. ESPN had him as a borderline 1st round pick. Apparently some people in the NFL had him as a top 25 player, which I think is really, really silly. I'm sorry, but if you think Elijah Arroyo is a top 25 player in this draft, I don't know what you're looking at. I definitely didn't see the same things that you guys did, but I'm just this one leaves me kind of confused. I'm not sure what the appeal is. Like, I look at him and I go, he's a little bit faster, worse blocking Will Dissly. You can get guys like that in the 5th round.
Yeah, I don't. Half of his snaps were operating as a slot wide receiver, not even as an H-back, but as a slot wide receiver, and that's official snap counts. It's again, just come back to it. I like a lot more of a well-rounded tight end if I'm getting the tight end at this point. You mentioned Fannin, and Fannin has every bit of the catch radius this guy does. Fannin's a way better blocker. Fannin's actually even a little younger. Fannin is also way better after the catch with the rack. So, it's just like there's not a lot of skill here for what you're getting on this guy for a second. This is an early 2nd round pick or mid 2nd round pick. It's kind of tough to understand the value on this one for me.
Right. So I gave the pick a C. I don't know if I think it's bad, but I definitely don't think it's good. I couldn't get to a place where I thought it was good. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm even probably lower than you on this, so I might be a C minus, even D plus this range on this one. Arroyo was one of the tight ends in the class that I just didn't quite. I was not feeling at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we got to get to the big hammer. This is the one that really just brought the house down for me, and I have to admit, I mean that in a pretty negative way. So Seahawks don't pick again until 92. Seahawks we're sitting there for quite a while watching picks go by. It was like what 42 picks between us and them, between picks. So we're sitting there. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on the board. There's a lot of players that I wouldn't have expected to be at pick 92 there. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you've got Jared Wilson. That could be your center for the going forward. You've got Alec Ayomanor. For some reason, teams just weren't too excited about him. You've got a guy like even Scatabo, who I like as a interesting dynamic running back. You've got Braden Swinson, Kobe Bryant. These are all guys that I'm looking at and going, I'd be pretty happy with any of this. There are Jordan Phillips, even Torrey Horton. Like, there's a lot going on here. The Seahawks don't do any of that. They go with Jalen Milroe, Alabama quarterback. You go first, man. You go first.
Well, I think we've talked a lot about this guy, so I mean, we've covered him very far end to end on it. The evaluation is where it stands with us on it. We walked into this, we had an outlook of him where we saw him stand, and the outlook of him remains. It doesn't change. I think there's a little bit of draw in some of the Seahawks fans that I don't quite understand, where we've given these opinions on these guys prior to this draft. So this isn't, opinions that change with the Seahawks picking these specific players. These are what we thought of these guys walking in. And I don't think anybody should want us to change our opinion if that's what we honestly have as our take. Jalen's, to me, not going to become a quarterback in the NFL. I don't think that he has the processing power to get that done. I just don't think he sees things clearly when he drops back. It's going to be a gadget guy, a guy that you use like a Taysom Hill roll, so you get a little bit of juice out of him. It's a stock market kind of pick where you're hoping that maybe he does develop and gets better and could be your QB of the future. Or if Darnold's rocking well, then you got a guy you can flip for a pick down the road maybe. But I when it comes to quarterbacking, it's very, very hard. Both him and Ewers, when you watch them play the quarterback position in college, it's really hard film to watch. Those guys are really struggling to do sometimes even the most rudimentary of things.
So last year, about a year ago when we were here, we drafted 2 corners in day 3, right? We drafted Nehemiah Pritchett and DJ James, both Auburn cornerbacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I wanted to watch their tape last year. So one game that I watched a lot was the Alabama versus Auburn game. So I could see what those 2 corners were doing. And while watching that game, I remember thinking to myself, man, I really, really hope I don't end up having to root for Jalen Milroe at some point in my life, because I was just so unimpressed with him as a quarterback. I was so convinced that this guy wasn't a real NFL QB. And the funny thing is, he regressed last year as a passer. He did. He got worse with Kalen DeBoer. With Kalen DeBoer coming in there, he got worse as a passer. So, on some level, I kind of get it. This is a really, really good athlete. This is a very, very big-armed quarterback. He's got the cannon arm to make a lot of different throws. He is a very skilled runner. He's not just fast. I will say that. He's not just fast. He's skilled running the ball, but there's so much wrong here, man. It's going to take years to get this right, and it may never get right. There's a very good chance it doesn't get right. So this was the one that really kind of just made me almost disassociate. I was just kind of like, okay, all right, we're not doing the thing. We're not doing it.
Yeah, I'm probably very similar in the camp of where you find yourself. I think these last 2 picks have definitely, for a draft that had me really getting hyped and feeling great about things, it feels like it's I'm in the sailboat and we're moving and the winds hit and here we go and my hair's kicked back and we're flowing, and then suddenly the winds just come to a stop. And now we're just sitting in the middle of the ocean going nowhere. And that's what I feel a little bit with these last 2 picks of this draft from my perspective of it. And I can't dress it up in any other way than that. These are guys that I had 2 very well-formed opinions on walking into this draft. And as I said just a moment ago, those opinions aren't going to change just because the Seattle Seahawks selected him. I think that when it comes to quarterbacks, there's two skills that you either have or you have not. And there's been nobody who has been able to convince me otherwise on this. You are not going to get more arm strength. Maybe get a little bit more, a couple percentage points of juice along as you get a little older, but you're not going to magically increase arm strength. You're also not going to magically increase processing power, neck above stuff, and an ability to, you got ability to process. Can you see things clearly? Can you be an anticipatory thrower? Does it come to you like second nature in that way, or do you struggle to see it? Do you need to take that extra beat to see the guy open? Does the ball sometimes come out in a variety of different places? His accuracy is just everywhere. I don't think that there's too many things to clean up on this. It's good that you can at least get him as sort of, I guess, a Taysom Hill type guy, so that at least there's some salvageable value for him if he can't become this quarterback. And I do hope we're wrong on this, but it is the outlook of where I stand right now.
Yeah. When I did my scouting on him, what I wrote was no ability to have nuance with his throws. Everything's a fastball. He can't feather in throws. He can't layer throws. He's mechanically poor, which is why he's so inaccurate. His mechanics are awful. He regressed significantly in 2024 as a passer. Terrible when pressured. When he's pressured, he turns into a chicken with his head cut off. Poor decision maker. Really struggles with the cerebral elements of playing the position. Poor feel in the pocket. I feel like that's kind of a list of almost everything that you need to do as a quarterback in the NFL to have success, right? Well, I mean, he's got a big arm. He's got a cannon arm. He's got the he's got the mobility. He's got the speed. He's a really good athlete. But, we just went through this with Anthony Richardson. And look, we didn't spend the 4th overall pick on this guy. I know it's different. But I look at Jalen Milroe, and I think this is like a poor man's Anthony Richardson. And Anthony Richardson's already bad as it is. So I don't understand. I cannot comprehend this one. This one I couldn't get on board with in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, the physical talents are great, but physical talents do not make a quarterback. And with a quarterback, there's a lot more at play than just having that ability to have a rocket cannon arm. And your points about the throwing everything as a fastball are well said. He's not a layer or thrower of the ball. I think his somewhat small hands make it hard for him at times to control the ball. It doesn't come out like a clean spiral as well with that. It's like he's holding kind of like a cinder block in his hands when he's throwing a football. And it just doesn't come out free and easy with him. And I don't think that that's getting to be a correctable delivery. And I think that this guy's always going to have things holding him back from ever getting anywhere close to that top end that you think might be teased with the physical tools that he shows you. But he shouldn't have regressed this year. He went from that Saban simple offense of you're going to run and read option stuff to now you're going to DeBoer and you're going to do more spread stuff and you're going to have to kind of throw the ball around, and yet you regress when we ask to put more of a load on your shoulders. I don't look at that as a good sign for him.
Mm-hmm. And beyond that, let's think about, let's map this out. I was thinking about this after I turned the stream off earlier. So clearly you're drafting Milroe to develop, right? Even the people who like Milroe are like, well, this guy's going to have to develop probably over multiple years. And we just gave Sam Darnold a pretty significant contract. So I guess the plan is to have Darnold start for 2 years. And then by year 3, Milroe's ready to play. Is that kind of your read?
Yeah, that would be what they're trying to think to do, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. So if things work out, Milroe comes in year 3. And if he plays well, you're immediately going to have to pay him. And with the way things are going, it's probably going to be like $65 million a year. I don't understand how that's supposed to be a really desirable outcome here. Now, granted, the big money in that contract extension is not going to kick in immediately, but you're losing out on those first couple years of the rookie deal pretty much from the jump. Like, there's no possibility of this guy being starting caliber in the next 2 years, in my estimation. You're hoping year 3 is the year to go. And then it's like, okay, we're 1 year away from having to give this guy this monster contract.
Not to mention, if he has that good year, you only have 1 year of him playing at that level to pay him that deal. So now you're like having to take the risk of that 1 year being what he is now, even though you don't have as much data as you'd like to operate off of. I think it's a good point. It's a factor into this decision. It is helpful that you get to use him as kind of a gadget guy to get some value out of him in those first 2 years. But nonetheless, your point still stands. The ideal here in taking quarterbacks early is to get a guy that you're able to maximize a little bit of that early return on, so that you can build up the rest of the team around him. They've taken a different approach here, though, with this one.
Yeah. So Yeah, I don't really know what else to say other than that. He's obviously very talented. I can understand why some people like him, but I don't. I think the talent is all there is. The talent is all there is. This guy, 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. His completion percentage dropped last year playing for DeBoer, which is crazy. That shouldn't be happening. Absolutely not. Like, and I know he's playing tough competition at Alabama, but most of his stats, his passing stats, were against the cupcakes. Like, if you look
Mhm.
at it, he put up big numbers against the cupcakes that Alabama plays at the start of the year. And then when he actually started SEC play, it was bad. It wasn't even like average, it was bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get it. And I don't have any quarterbacks that I could think that are this raw out what you're seeing with them on tape that come out and they develop and look so much better. There's been raw guys out that you can have explanations for. Even a Lamar Jackson was much more of a refined passer coming out of Louisville, and I was not a big fan necessarily of how he necessarily threw it with his motion, but he was still light years ahead of to me where Milroe is as a passer.
Right. So I mean that is day 3 for the Seahawks. I mean, that's the last pick. I gave the pick a D, and the only reason why I didn't give it an F is because, part of me was like, well, at least we didn't take him in the first round. And that's not a very good defensive a pick, right?
No, you don't want to be starting from a negative as far as the most positive thing you can say about a player with a pick. I do go D plus because there's the plus is the side that you do get some productivity out of kind of a Taysom Hill role for the first couple of years, but I do still find myself in the D range of this as well with these last 2 picks.
Yeah, and on some level I kind of just feel, I'm trying to find the right word. It's almost like embarrassed because Milroe was probably the player that I viewed to be the most overrated in this class.
Yeah.
I didn't get it. Like Ewers I didn't really get, but by the time we got to the draft, most people thought Ewers was a 4th rounder. So I was like, yeah, that's probably pretty close. So I didn't think Ewers was overrated by the time we got here, but Milroe I didn't get more than any other player, and now here he is. I kind of feels like a sitcom. Feels like a sitcom plot.
It's hard to feel super excited about it with the outlook we have of them. You do these evaluations and you come out of it with this, and there's so many warts to the player. You're just like, I don't know how this gets cleaned up and get work. You're going to give them the time to give them the opportunity to do so. Don't get me wrong there, but I don't have any real quarterbacks that I look at in recent memory that have been drafted who have gone from here to there. You're this far back behind. You've got this many things. You might bring a couple things forward, but you're still highly limited as a quarterback at that point, even at your best developed stage. It's like Justin Fields. Justin Fields, similar guy, raw guy coming out, but you've got things within his game that you look at and go, I don't know on this. He doesn't process in the pocket at all back there at Ohio State. And then that's why I say again, arm strength, processing. Doesn't process in college, doesn't process in the pros. Didn't process with the Bears, didn't process with the Steelers to the point that the Steelers went back to Russell Wilson, who they were just as well quickly willing to pivot off of this offseason. Processing and the neck above stuff just does not really come along. You got it or you don't. People don't want to hear that. But in doing 30, 40 years of quarterback evaluations and year after year of watching these drafts, these QBs come out, it's the one real hard-line rule that I've learned and come to lean upon.
Right. So yeah, that's day 2. Overall, I think that it was just kind of probably on the whole, if you average the 3 picks out, you're probably in the range of like a C plus or C or something like that. Just really not what I needed to see to make me feel great about the direction of this team.
Nope. And what's great is you got Zabel. You're now looking at a lot of the offensive linemen off the board as you pick into the depths of the 4th round, and so it very well may be we're back into taking the Joshua Gray from Oregon State later on, or Calabrese, or you're going to grow for these kind of flyer guys that you've gone down the past on that have not given you a lot of success in recent years, taking that approach, and that's also part of what you're looking by taking these 2 picks like you've taken it. So. Yeah, so he's about an accurate spot for where I find myself standing right now too. So Nick Emmanwori was great, but these ones definitely as good as that one was, these ones just kneecapped the hell out of you the second that they came down the pike on the back end of it.
Yeah, and I got to be honest. It's not what I needed in a draft or an off season where your team decided to trade 2 of their best players for draft picks, and then they turn around and use their draft picks like this. I'm like, you were trying to basically the message being sent this offseason was, forget about having good players. Forget about the good players we're losing. We're adding draft picks. Value the draft picks. And then you use the draft picks like this. It's really hard for me to get behind that strategy. If you had hit those 2 picks, and to a certain extent they did because they used the DK pick to trade up to get Emmanwori, but when you're trading 2 of your best players for picks and then you turn around and use the picks on stuff like this, it's like, I think I'd rather just have the good players, actually.
Yeah, I probably would too, even overpaying them at that point, if this is what the reality is of what you're going to do with those picks when you get them.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we got some donations to get through. Let's go ahead and get on those right now. Thank you to everybody who has sent in a donation. Seth, thank you for the $4.99. Really like the trade up for Emmanwori. Not a huge fan of Arroyo and Milroe picks. That is where we both landed, I think.
Yeah, that's where I stand as well with these, Seth. Is love Emmanwori, grade A pick, home run all day long. Happy to give up that pick, but the other 2, I can't get signed up on them.
Yeah, and I even like the trade up. There were some people in the chat who were really upset about losing that 3rd round pick. I think that was fine. I had no issue with that. You got to give up something to get something, and there's no way Emmanwori was being there at 50. No way.
Or a player close to that talent at 50 there where you would have been taking. It said throw Emmanwori out, different position, not as talented a player as this. You got some great upside on this guy with some actually steady floor that might be a little bit missing on those other 2 players in the 2nd and 3rd round. So I'm no issue with it as well. If you added some more of the players to drop in this draft, but unfortunately, Brendan, a lot of teams played this draft pretty smartly in their approach. I can probably go through a good 12 to 15 teams that I feel very good about what they've done in this draft. And that partly didn't allow guys to slip and drop into your lap then into that 3rd round point.
Yeah. At the same time, though, there were things you could have done, I think, at those picks that was much better.
Yes, I would agree with you there.
Tezu Kako, thank you for the $6.99 Canadian. I think that's about $5 or so here. Someone prank called Sanders saying he was drafted. All the cameras came for no reason. I didn't see the prank call. I didn't hear about this. That's funny.
Cool. It's pretty cold-blooded. It is. It was hilarious watching all those cameras he had in the building yesterday.
Yeah.
But look, leadership matters. How you carry yourself in the quarterback position matters. You cannot just go out there and be another guy on the team. You cannot go out there and give kind of wide receiver energy to the quarterback position. And NFL teams are putting a big time wake up call to not just Shedeur Sanders, but to the rest of those college football prospects that are quarterbacks right now with the NIL money and making all their millions. Be careful. Be careful how big you let your head get inflated, because we know that it does not work in an NFL locker room, that inflated head. That is a pathway to a broken locker room, to cliques developing, to a quarterback that's not taking responsibility when he needs to. And it's reflected here on him dropping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've been doing this longer than I have because you've been alive longer. Have you ever seen this before? A player that was projected to be what Shedeur was ending up there in day 3. Has this ever happened before?
No, I can't think of a guy that would come to mind on this, because it always goes in the other direction where guys who shouldn't go, high go high. It's a Manziel going up in the 1st round. It's a Tebow going up in the 1st round. You look at those in retrospect and go, how do those guys go in the 1st round? So it always goes the other direction. It's never one that's of a guy dripping. And even guys that have bad character concerns, it's not like Jamarcus Russell was a picture of character glory coming out of LSU. He could throw 80 yards from his knees. And so, no, but I think it's also reflective a little bit of what's happened here is that you're on the edge of the diva era of quarterbacks through the 2000 teens. And I think the NFL teams have had to face a lot of the BS that came with that. A lot of individual teams did. And I think it burned them out on that when they went, you know what? I don't want a quarterback worried about his brand. I don't want a quarterback that's got his post-football life at the forefront of his thinking. I want a guy that's all about ball, that's boring, that's a nerd, that's going to do the right things at every turn. That's what I want. And I don't want to fix his mentals. I don't want to have to explain to him how to be a leader. And kind of some of this is reflective on Dion, quite frankly, because Dion kind of let him do this whole take on my whole Dion sort of way to things. And that works as a cornerback. It doesn't work at a quarterback.
Yeah. Maurice Claret was a third round pick. I remember, like, at least Maurice Claret went in day 2. That's how unbelievable this is.
But he had
And
legal issues.
yeah, but there was a lot of expectation that because he was going to be a first round pick, and then the legal issues came up, and people were like, "Oh, he's going to go undrafted now," and he still went in the third round.
Yeah.
So we're not even there with Shadur, man. What do you think happens now? Do you think that where do you think he ends up at this point?
He'll go fourth round. Somebody's going to take it. I mean, it's day 2 is tough because you're looking for starters. Day 4, you're looking at guys that a lot more into the flyer. Day 3 is a lot more flyer. Round 4, I see he'll go somewhere fourth round. There's enough teams still that kind of need a QB, from the Jets to the, I mean, even potentially like a Niner team that could come in there and jump on him to give them some hedge there for Brock. So he'll go fourth round. I can't see him dropping to fifth.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. He's not going to go in the first 5 picks. Maybe the Raiders at 108.
Raiders are a possibility too. Yeah, good value.
Jets at 110. Man, him in that New York market, that'd be really, really bad. Oh,
Well, it's tough. Fourth round, you don't care as much at that point. If I'm a team, and especially I wouldn't, as much as I'm out on Sanders, not big on him, I'd still say, hey, that's not a bad risk to take, especially for a Jets franchise that has Justin Fields as your only quarterback really on that roster.
right.
Go get some more help in there. So I'd be okay with it. Fourth round's nothing at all to take a risk on a guy like that.
Yeah, I tend to agree. MJ Seahawk, thank you for the 5. My issue with day 2 is every one of our picks has major bust potential. I don't know if Arroyo has major bust potential. I think he could just end up being relatively anonymous in the league. But I agree with the other 2 for sure. There's tremendous bust potential with the other 2 guys.
Yeah, I see it kind of for the most part too. I mean, I think even in Arroyo, I can see bust potential for a guy that doesn't really give you much as a blocker and really doesn't give you much as a yak guy. You start to limit the scope for success for the player by that range of things.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to live with the bust potential if there was also tremendous upside, but there's not much upside with Arroyo. I'm sorry, there just isn't.
I don't see it either.
Yeah, some people were trying to point to his he had like a chase down tackle on an interception or something, and people were trying to say, "Look, he's fast. Look, he chased down this guy from behind on an interception like DK did." And I was like,
No,
okay,
his speed's okay at best, is what I would call it.
yeah, and by the way, he has to stay healthy through all this. He has, which he has not done in college.
That's right. There's injury concerns on top of everything else. Great, yeah.
Ethan, thank you for the $2. This darn team's fascination with the Senior Bowl. Yeah, it sure is.
Looms large. Looms
Yeah.
large. What are you going to do? So.
Yeah, and maybe I guess one thing you can kind of say is that maybe this kind of reveals that maybe John Schneider had a little bit more to do with things than we maybe initially thought because of Pete Carroll being there, because that fascination has not left with Carroll, it seems. And we're working with very limited data. I understand that. We have 2 drafts, but doesn't seem like things have changed very much.
I would say so. Yeah, feels like that's probably accurate.
Mm-hmm. Steven, thank you for the $1.99. I love Jalen Milroe. He is our future franchise quarterback. Well, at least somebody does. I mean, somebody in this fan base has to love him, because I don't. It's good that, everybody deserves to be loved, right?
Yeah. Steve, there's definitely a few folks that were super hyped by him. And so with me and Brendan, I know that this is a place of sensitivity for the fan base when it comes to content creators broaching into negative territory. And so I think both me and Brendan, where we do completely rest on our evaluation of the players and that we stand on that. At the same point in time, we will both tell you that we hope we're wrong on this. We don't want to be right on this. I want Jalen Milroe to go ball out. I want Elijah Rojo to go out there and kick ass and take names. So I hope from the bottom of my heart that I'm wrong and you're right on this. I hope he can become that future quarterback. I really do.
Mm-hmm. Stranger things have happened. There have been strange things in this world that have happened, but I do believe that Jalen Milroe being a good NFL quarterback would be a very strange thing, because it goes against everything that I know about football from my time watching it and trying to understand it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Green 80, thank you for the $14 Canadian. Arroyo and Milroe are awful picks. 3 tight ends on the roster who aren't blockers, 5 quarterbacks on the roster. How does John explain this? Maybe they will be good players, but horrible value. Mm. Barner can block. Barner can block. I would push back a little bit on that, but other than that, I'm with you.
Yeah, Barner's a blocker. I would say agreeing that there's going to be some cascading effect from this draft and these picks. And the cascading effect is going to be that Noah Fant's likely to probably be maybe even traded tomorrow for like a 5th or 6th round pick. Sam Howell's probably likely to be traded tomorrow for a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, or just outright released. So I think that you're not going to look at where the roster is standing now is where it's going to sit even a week or two from now, would be my opinion. Part of the Arroyo pick is to free you from that money that you have to pay Noah Fant. You're not going to keep Noah and Arroyo on the roster at the same time because of the fact that, kind of to your point, Green 80, they're both H-backs who can't block. So we're going to have one inline guy in AJ Barner, and then we're going to have 2 H-backs who can't block. I don't see that happening. And you did bring that Niner tight end here who is more of a blocker type, more of an inline guy, more of a third tight end type guy that you'd have for this offense. So it means that Fant's on his way, out the door. But yeah, I agree with Brandon. Barner can at least block for sure.
Yeah, and that is one thing about the Arroyo pick I don't mind. If it leads to us moving on from Fant and maybe getting a day 3 pick and saving that money, I like that. But you could have achieved the same thing with a different tight end that I would have liked more.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm not worried about the 5 quarterbacks thing so much because I think one of them is John Reese Plumlee or whatever his name is. Like
It's the Hall. It's the Hall. Yeah, I mean, Plumlee's gone, Hall's gone, the BYU guy's going to be out, Sam Howell's going to be out. What you're going to be left with on this Green 80 is you're going to be left with Sam Darnold, Jalen Milroe, and Locke. Yeah. That's the way that's going to play out when we get to the final training camp and all of that. So it will definitely change.
Right. So I'm not too worried about that. It's not going to cost us any money to move off those quarterbacks, by the way. They're not making anything. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Amen.
Brucey, thank you for the member message. Member for 29 months. Hawks management nailed this draft. 3 potential starters. Well, I would certainly hope that when you're drafting on day 2, you're getting at least potential starters.
I would hope so too. And thank you for that long time support, Brucey. Definitely feel that way when it comes to Zabel and Amari for sure. So at bare minimum, I think you're getting 2. We'll see on those next 2. But I love your confidence in it and that there's a lot of 12s hype for those other 2 guys. I love seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, I ran polls on my channel after the picks, and Arroyo and Milroe were both basically perfectly split. 50% liked it, 50% didn't on both ends. I think it was like 55% liked it for Arroyo, and for Milroe, it was like 47% liked it or something like that.
Well, this fan base can do one thing sometimes is disagree with each other.
Yeah, and I was hoping this would be the off season where maybe we could have that off season where there wouldn't be that disagreement. Like, I didn't necessarily agree with the things that the Seahawks did earlier in the offseason, but I could have totally rallied behind it if we hit this draft out of the park. Mm-hmm. But I'm sitting here and I'm like, I think we had an average. It's a slightly above average draft.
And I'm maybe average at best right now.
Mm-hmm. I think the earlier picks just way much heavier. So I'll give them a little bit of credit for that, but it's not what it could have been. This is not 2022. It's not 2023. I don't even think it's 2024.
Nope.
Steven, thank you for the $4.99. Jalen Milroe is going to beat out Darnold in training camp, just like Russ beat out Flynn. Well, if Darnold gets beat out by first-year Jalen Milroe, he's much worse than I thought, and I don't think super highly of Sam Darnold, but you better not lose to that guy in training camp, buddy.
Yeah, I would. I think Russell was just a little more accomplished as a player and a little more, way more refined as a player coming out than what we have from Milroe. Milroe's got some more natural ability, more size Russell didn't have, Steven to the other side. So there's some plus sides that Jalen brings that Russ didn't have in addition to that. Jalen's probably got a stronger arm than Russell overall. But he's not ready to really be a starting quarterback in this league. He's not even close.
Yeah, I think it would kind of be like that rookie year for Richardson. Remember when they tried to play him a little bit and it was bad? I think it might be even worse than that.
He's got to sit. The best thing for Jalen Milroe at this point is to sit and learn and work on his fundamentals. And the reason that you have him sit to do that is that then when he gets in games, he's not thinking about his feet in the right place. And get it to where it's second nature and cleaning up some of that throwing motion before you then throw him out onto the field consistently as a quarterback, at least.
Yeah. And if this team actually throws him out there year 1, that's malpractice.
Yeah, I would say it's not going to lead to success.
Mm-hmm. Christian, thank you for the $2 super chat. John needs to go. Well, you're never really going to fire a GM in the offseason after the offseason's already started, but I got to be honest, I'm not in a good place with Schneider right now. I'm not cool with the way things have been going in the post Pete Carroll era.
Well, I definitely think there's a pathway to only getting 6 or 7 wins next year as it currently stands, and will be interesting to see where that puts John if that's the way that this is going to play out.
Yeah, I said I was going to give him a reasonable opportunity to have success post Pete Carroll, but overall so far I'm not that impressed. I think that he hit the McDonald hire, and other than that, I think there's been left a lot to be desired.
Agreed. You've not spent money in free agency particularly well, in my opinion. You've left the offensive line in complete disrepair. And when it comes to even last year's draft, the best pick of last year's draft might have been Mike McDonald with Tyrese Knight when it's all said and done. I mean, I love Byron Murphy, but dude, you told us he's the best defensive player in the draft. And I don't know if that's what I saw on tape. Looks like a solid player, played out of position, sure, but it's not a great reflection on John here so far with this. No, I agree.
Yeah, I'm not impressed, and I'm not yet gonna say we should fire him, mostly because it makes no sense to fire a GM right after the draft. But we could be in like October here, and if I don't like what I see, I might be jumping on that wagon.
I'm not going to find myself doing that game too much with this, Brendan. The main reason being is that it comes down to Jody Allen, and you can make calls for this or calls for that. And if a track record in a person is that they're not going to do that and that's not the way they roll, and look, she'll get rid of a coach, but it's different with the general manager. And look, the Blazers situation, I'm not going to waste my breath on things that have no opportunity of happening. So it will be interesting to see if it's a potential opening for a pivot, but I don't think that he's anywhere close to being in a hot seat. And I don't even think a 6 or 7 win season would put him on the hot seat.
Right. I mean, I would say, I've been surprised before, but you may very well be right.
Yeah.
God's Gang, thank you for the $5. This was not the best draft. People didn't reach because the talent wasn't deep. Not a whole lot of options available for franchise-changing picks. I agree with this, which is why I think the Zabel pick was really good, because there weren't a lot of better options there necessarily. But I don't think this justifies what we did with the Arroyo and the Milroe picks.
No, I think it's well said, God's Gang. I think this definitely was a draft where, versus other seasons, I think you thought you saw a lot more stupidity across the league with certain picks and a collection of picks. This year, teams just drafted so smartly and so well for the most part throughout day 1 and 2. It didn't give you a lot of market opportunity to go there and really take advantage of the situation.
Yeah, I will concede that when we got to our pick in the first round, there wasn't a heck of a lot that I was really, really excited about. But there was stuff I was excited about when we came up at our pick at 50 and 92, and we didn't do any of it. And I understand that just because I'm not excited for it doesn't make it bad. But all I can do is go off the information I have. All I can do is go off my reads from the pre-draft process.
Yeah, I agree. I'm the same way.
Dylan Sosa, thank you for the $4.99. I would have loved Jonah to fall to 50. His versatility on the right side of the line with Zabel's versatility on the left side would have been great for us. I was a big Jonah fan.
I know you were. Yeah, you liked yourself, Savania, and he went pretty quick there in that second round.
Yeah. Embo, though, how is that guy still on the board with the way the interior offensive linemen were flying off? That one's weird. I liked Embo a lot. I'm actually really surprised that he is the one interior offensive lineman that has slipped here.
He plays a little high and doesn't work well in moving in space, and probably more has to stay at tackle than go into guard. And I think that's probably affecting a little bit of the outlook of teams on him.
Yeah, but other than that, after that, you got Jackson Slater, the Sacramento State guy, and then you are going to be drilling a long, long time to find the next good interior offensive lineman.
Yep.
Chase Lunt, I guess.
Yeah. I don't even know if Chase Lunt will be available by the time you pick in the depth of 4th round. So you've kind of lost your chance to get a guy that's real substantial, and you're going to be more taking a flyer. It's more of the Olatimi, more of the Bradford, more of the Sa'atua Lamea. And like those guys haven't worked out, it's not got a high likelihood of these guys working out and who you're going to be picking in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round at the offensive line.
Right. Let's see here. Green 80, thank you for the $7 Canadian. Not worried about the roster spots. My point was there was way more value to be had elsewhere than Arroyo and Milroe. Go Hawks.
We 100% agree with you, Green 80.
Mhm.
There's not even a slight variance on our disagreement. 100% agreements with you. There was a lot better value picks to go with there. There's a lot better directions to go with there. Hard to understand from my perspective exactly what they're doing with those two picks. I'm very frustrated, and I'm very unsure about what it is exactly. Some of the plan in place here on this one a bit.
Mhm. I mean, let's think about this. We're here at the end of day 2. We did nothing to address wide receiver, did nothing to address cornerback, did nothing to address nose tackle, which is, I mean, that's a glaring problem right now. We probably need 2, and we don't have any.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I guess we addressed the interior offensive line. Some people would argue not enough. But like, even if you were trying to filter this through a lens of, oh, we were drafting for need, I don't think we did a good job drafting for need. We didn't draft for value, and we didn't draft for need. Well, what did we draft for? I don't know.
Bust factor.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, Jordan, thank you for the $10. I'm not the biggest fan of Milroe, but he definitely will have Taysom Hill packages and help us on third down and red zone situations. Kubiak credited Hill as a big reason for the Saints' third down and red zone offense. Well, if you're trying to get me behind the pick, trying to say that we used a third-round pick on Taysom Hill is not really gonna get me there. I'm just gonna go ahead and be honest about that. That's not helping me, just personally.
Yeah, I'd be the same place a little bit, Jordan, here, in that I don't think you're not right. You are correct in that he's going to provide some help and be able to work. You're going to be able to work him into the offense as you're hoping, he can develop. But you're not taking Jalen Milroe for the value he brings you as the gadgety player. You're bringing him in the third round. You're grabbing him for what he's going to be for you as a quarterback. And then that has to be where the evaluation's at, is what I really see at the bottom line when it comes to this pick and evaluating the pick is, what will he be as a quarterback? Do I have a lot of confidence and success that he's going to find that place? And I just don't. And so maybe you can find ultimate value with him being that gadget guy. Taysom Hill has carved himself out a hell of a career in this role. He signed himself to a big contract there with the Saints in this role. Maybe you can do that here with Milroe. But it's just not, it's not an approach. Let's go get a 4th round pick for Hill then, or whatever, just try to find just a different approach that gets you better value than to do that, rather than giving up kind of more what I'd consider to be kind of max value to get that very kitschy, specified kind of role in this offense.
Yeah, you take a Taysom Hill type guy in the 5th round. You don't take him in the 3rd round when there's other like really intriguing players still on the board. Like Jared Wilson was still there. Emmanwori was still there. You can't tell me there wasn't something else appealing to you on the board at that point.
Yeah. And Jordan even admits in his donation here, thank you for that, Jordan, that, he's not the biggest fan of Milroe either. So it is the good part, though, no matter how low I am as on the quarterback, Jordan, it's not a part to be just thrown away. You will get value from him in other ways than being just a QB. So that does change a bit of it versus Quinn Ewers, which you were going to ride or die on Quinn Ewers being a QB or not. There was no, hey, let's get some Ewers snaps at fullback and see what he can do from that position. So it's a valid point to be made on this. It is absolutely one. You'll get something out of him, at least a little bit.
Yeah. I have an appreciation for that, but I don't know. I'm just going to feel a little embarrassed if we spend a 3rd round pick on a player and he's doing Taysom Hill gadget stuff in 2 years.
I will as well, man.
Taker, thank you for the $2. We passed on both Jared Wilson and Tate Ratledge. A lot of people in my chat were very unhappy that we did not end up with one or both of those players.
Yep. You had the opportunity, man. You had the opportunity, the chance to grab them, and you decided not to. I do think a little bit of the lack of selecting Jared Wilson has a lot to do with the fact that, I know we talked about this last night, where the team's going to try him at guard at first, and they're going to try to make Zabel work at guard. But I really think his final home destination is probably going to be center. And if you had taken Wilson, you would have left yourself with a possible conundrum of having 2 guys at center position that are really good, but you only start one of them. And I think that's a little bit of why they may have passed on him. Not saying I didn't want him as well. I did, but I think that's a little bit of what went into their thinking there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And that was like a perfect Detroit Lions pick, right? Tate Ratledge is a Lion through and through, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. That's a great pick for them. I mean, it's a Campbell player, tough, He's going to be a plug and play starter for them. They did lose a little bit on their offensive line there, so they need some help on that interior. They got the Mahogany kid developing for them at left guard. So they're kind of slowly rebuilding up that line a little bit nicely. They've got the tackle still in place, and of course Ragnow is still there. And so Detroit did a good job with that Ratledge pick and keeping that offensive line square. Because with Goff, you got to keep him clean to get the best out of him.
Yeah, but he a lot of people were saying Ratledge was like one of the meanest players in this draft. And you hear mean player, you think about the Lions right now.
You do indeed. He's a finisher, man. He's nasty.
Oh yeah. God's Gang, thank you for the $2 super chat. And multiple teams took 2 wide receivers, which screwed us. There was a little bit of run on receiver, but we still had opportunities to get some good guys that we did not take.
Indeed. Definitely a bit of a run on receiver, especially in the end of that third round. As like Ty Felton going and whatnot. There was a lot of guys I had a little bit deeper in this draft that went a lot higher. So that was rough to see, man. God's Gang, you're right about that. Jack Besh going early on and that one hurt.
Yeah, Jack Besh hurt. Higgins went before we could have picked him. That was fine, whatever. But
Savion Williams, third, popping right before us.
Yeah, I would have jumped on Savion right there and felt really great about it. Although I have to be honest, I actually think this team would have taken Milroe no matter what. I don't think they were sitting there hoping for a guy like Savion Williams or Jack Besh to be there, and then they were like, okay, let's pivot to Milroe. I think they had Milroe in their head.
Probably agree with you on that. Yeah, if he's going to drop that spot, we'll jump there.
Yeah, and I don't like that. I don't like being inflexible. I like being adaptive to the situation. But I got the sense that they were like, this is Milroe. We don't care who else is there.
Yeah, I don't think it speaks to you just trusting the value of your board. I think it speaks to you wanting to go get a quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Jordan, thank you for the $5 super chat. It wasn't to persuade, just that he will probably play some this year and will allow him to develop while not completely sitting the entire year. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, man. Definitely not disagreeing with you on it either. And I get where you're coming from. It's definitely true. He's going to give you that value in that way. And that gives you a lot more than you would typically get from these quarterbacks. That you just be sitting there collecting dust over on the bench and doing a whole lot of nothing but trying to help the starting quarterback, which can't do a lot of that if you're a young quarterback. You just don't have the wisdom or years to, provide much help. So, yeah.
Yeah. I does it help to develop a quarterback if you're putting him in there for gadget plays more so than him just sitting on the bench for a couple years?
I don't think it has an effect.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think you can do that stuff and still develop him at the same time. I don't think it has to be kind of a one or the other thing.
Right. Let's see here. Steven, thank you for the $1.99. I think Milroe should sit for 2 years first, though. Yeah.
You saw it with the Colts. Colts had the hard time with learning this lesson. I said when they drafted Anthony Richardson, you got to sit him for 2 years or you're going to set him up for failure. You're going to set him up to try to not be ready. He's got to have some time on the bench to learn this game. Milroe's the same way. He needs to clean up his accuracy. He needs to clean up his throwing motion. He needs to get better as if he can as a processor. God only knows. This stuff's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen with one OTA session. Give him the 2 years to sit on the bench to develop. That's the requirement with this player.
Yeah, and that's not something I ever want to do with a quarterback, man. That rookie contract is precious, and I want to get them out there as soon as I can. But I don't want to force them out there, but I want to draft somebody that's going to be able to get out there sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm. Seth, thank you for the $4.99. I'll tell you, if we at least get Jordan Phillips or Nazir Stackhouse, or maybe even both, I'll be extremely happy and feel solid about this draft. That would be a double dip I could get behind.
Be great if you could pull it off with both. But yeah, we'll have to see how the rest of the draft goes. I'm going to need day 3 to be finished pretty solidly at this point because I'm pretty solidly at about a C grade myself as it stands. So I don't know if Jordan Phillips or Stackhouse is enough to move that needle up to even a B place of things. Maybe a C plus, but I'll need to see what they do on day 3 and if they can find some value there and find some actual picks where it makes a little more sense than these last 2 ones have today.
Yeah. It's hard to make up ground in day 3 because the potential of getting a big impact player is so reduced. Like they're going to have to find a way to get Ayo Minor for me. Like that would get me out of my seat because that was the guy I had as a second rounder.
Yeah.
But that's going to be really freaking hard to do. I
do agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm. Maybe a guy like Scatabo because I had him as an early third rounder, but even then it's like it's a running back. I'm only going to get so excited about that. So I don't know. I don't think there's a ton you can do here. Maybe Kobe Bryant would be nice at 137.
Can be last.
Exactly. No guarantee of that. I'm trying to think of what could salvage this draft for me beyond where I have it right now. It's a very thin line, and it's not in your control at all. It's in other teams' control.
I think it just is what it is, Brendan. You take guys in day 2 that you don't have grade out this well. It's just kind of too much damage to do to overcome in a day 3. And so it just is what it is. It's not a completely poor draft. Some Hawk fans will be over the moon on this one and love every pick about it. I love that about them. Hopefully they can sell you and me along on this process. But your valuation is where it is, and you're not going to find those guys in day 3 in that way. And so it just is what it is, man. The draft's going to kind of sit as it's going to sit on this one.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that's about it. I can't really think of too much else to say. We got through that pretty well. We both don't really like it, I guess. And this really surprises me. I guess I like it slightly more than you do, but I think that's just a matter of like our grading scales being a little bit different rather than us having any different takes on these picks.
Yeah. I want to love all the picks. I do. I don't want to be out on picks. I don't want to be down on picks. I don't want to be anything but effusive in my praise for the team, but I don't do so blindly. And as I said earlier on my stream, I'm not going to give you guys an evaluation for 2 months leading the draft on a particular player and looking at that player closely and looking with a microscope and going game by game and play by play and coming out to an evaluation of that player only to have, let's say, a collection of a couple messages in my chat saying, no, I love the player, so now you need to love him. Like, it just ain't going to work that way for me. And I don't think you guys want that to work that way for us. I don't think that's what you guys want from us as content creators and when in covering this stuff, because I think it's kind of being untrue with you guys and it's being dishonest. And I don't think we're doing right by you if we do that.
Yeah, I didn't spend hundreds of hours trying to study this draft and look at these players to get on here and pretend like I think Jalen Milroe is good. Like, yeah. I didn't do it. I didn't do it for that.
Yeah. If the intention is just to sit here and applaud every pick and stand up and whistle and do that, then I wouldn't watch any of these players. I'll just give you guys the blurb of here's a scouting report blurb, and he's going to be amazing. That would be all I did. Then wouldn't do any of the work. Like you say, wouldn't put the hundreds of hours in grinding on tape on these guys. And it's hundreds of hours of grinding on tape. So when you put that work in, you put that effort in, you want to trust in your outlook and your evaluation of it.
Right. All right. So day 3 tomorrow, we've got what? 2 5th-round picks. No, we have a 4th-round pick, 2 5th-round picks, and 2 7ths, right?
That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm. So, opportunity still to be able to do something tomorrow. So
we can do some things. Oh, Jordan, thank you for the $5. You should like the Milroe pick. Yeah. Well, he seems like a really good guy, I guess. There's a lot of reports about how he's a high character dude. So we got that going for us.
At least not a diva. That's how that part's a good avoidance. So that part's cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess we're going to go ahead and call it there for the show. We went for about an hour. I think we said everything that can be said. We're both a little bit down right now, and I've been keeping one eye on the chat for most of tonight, and seems like there's a pretty good split here. There's a lot of people who are kind of with us and a lot of people who are not. So once again, we're going to be Seahawks fans that can't agree on much of anything. It's been like this for a while.
And let me just offer to the folks that are on either side of this, it's okay to have disagreement. It's okay. And there seems to be a sensitivity in the fan base that exists at times to disagreement, and that, that people will get very rankled by it. And I come back and say, it's all right. It's okay if you look and you see it differently than me and Brendan, and you very well may be right. And we very well may be wrong. That's the fun part of this game in a lot of ways and trying to figure it out. So nobody's got ultimately all the answers at play. We're just trying to evaluate and understand it the best we can and make our call from it on that side of it. But welcome the debate. Welcome the disagreement. It's okay. It's not a bad thing within the fan base to have. And I hope we can continue to keep that kind of energy as we go through these next couple of days of the draft, because I think it's better for the discussion.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. So we'll see what happens. But I think that tomorrow we will probably not be streaming because we will both be doing so much tomorrow that we're just not really going to have the energy for it. So maybe we'll convene on Sunday.
Potentially on Sunday. So we'll keep it a little open-ended and seeing where the voice is at by that point, but probably there.
Okay. So thank you for doing this with me, Brandon. We had a ton of people come out here, of course, because, draft stuff is happening.
Yep.
And thank you to everybody in the chat, even the people who don't like us very much right now. That's okay too.
Thank you guys for watching. It's been a great couple of days to be able to chop this up with you guys and with you, Brendan, and cover this draft. So it's been still a lot of fun in that part of it. Even though I love every pick, it's been great being able to chop it up with the community.
All right. So we got one more day of the draft. Let's see what's up. Let's see what happens. And the team needs to support right now. The team needs to hit on this stuff. So let's just say it and get out of here. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.